We'll get started anyway. I don't see anyone on the public side of it, so other than that, I guess we can move right to the first item, which is the Jersey barriers and the wall just past Stevensville, upstream from the Stevensville Bridge. So when Mike and I were out last week, was it Mike?
Yeah.
We bumped into the person who lives in the Golden Bridge, turn right into that first house there. And we got talking to him about why we were there and all, and he brought up the concern about you had these Jersey barriers there for a year anyway, maybe two, I'm not sure. But I know a few years ago I talked to Nate about that wall starting to undermine and collapse, but he wasn't able to get to it before we paid it. So here we are. It's still collapsing. Mike and I took some measurements as to how much it's kicked out. Go back next year and measure again. See how much it's moving.
It's probably about, I think there's 5, maybe 6 blocks high, base blocks.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with it.
Maybe 10, 12 feet tall, vertical to the stream. And the bottom, 2 courses, I'll say. One worse than the other, tipping outward. I don't know, I'm assuming they're the 2 by 2 by 4 foot long blocks. Because if they're the 4 by 4, I don't think it would be tipping out like that.
Not a picture of it. Corbett. That's a little more stuff. I guess I didn't take a picture of that.
It was 12 feet high.
I don't think it has 5 or 6 courses.
At least 8 or 10.
Yeah, I mean, feet high?
Yeah. It's down that ways. And like Mike said, the bottom 2 were kicked out noticeably, not just a couple inches, but they're out 5 or 6 inches, I guess.
At least.
Yeah. The rest of the wall looks pretty good. But the residents there,
The problem is at the bottom.
of course, always. The residents' concern was more not the bottom where the blocks are tipping, but rather having these unsafe Jersey barriers. His view was that those are temporary structures, not permanent. It just depends where you live. But in any event,
Trouble is though, the top of the wall is really close to the edge of the road in that area, so you can't drive guardrail posts because you hit the rocks. So that's why the Jersey barriers are there.
I don't, you sure they checked to see if we couldn't drive?
Boy, it looked to me like you would, I mean, I'm not positive, but I don't think
Depends
you
how
could.
thick those blocks are.
Pardon me?
Depends how fat those blocks are.
Well, yeah, but even if the blocks are only 2 feet,
You're still going to be,
I think you'd hit them with a guardrail post.
It must be wider than 2 feet of the wall is top not tipping out. It's not tall.
Well, it should be. Whether it is, I don't know.
and hammer drilling into
But,
a
you
concrete
know-
waste block is probably not something that Lafayette would do, I would presume.
I don't know if it would give you
The
the
protection,
strength. You
right,
know?
because you just be in the
But
top
2
one.
foot wide block with something bolted to the top of it, I don't know.
Your wife spends money on something like that for something that's temporary.
Yeah.
The Jersey barriers are temporary. Guardrail will be temporary if you put it on top of us.
Yeah, so it's, like Mike said, it's a tight situation there, and I don't know what the right answer is. We have Lafayette come out, look at it, tell us what they think they can do.
Wouldn't hurt.
And before we do anything, gotta fix the wall.
I'm going to paint the blocks green so they aren't so ugly for that point.
Good. It's not bad idea.
And white in winter too?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, we spin them around, one side white, one side green, we just spin them
Yeah.
around and see.
And it must be, I don't know, 30 yards, 40 yards long from the bridge.
Oh,
Like that
blocks?
driveway, maybe more.
Uh,
It'd be good 70, 80 feet anyway, if not 100.
Yeah.
It's a long wall.
I can't remember that. It's a long stretch though.
And I'm guessing it goes back to the
Well-
55 flood that Brad showed me pictures of when that thing went out.
I don't
Right,
know.
road got taken out, so they built that there along Brent River to start out.
Well, I don't think the blocks have been in there that long. I mean, those waste blocks don't go back to 55.
No.
I don't think they even had waste
They
blocks
didn't
back then.
Oh,
I think
okay.
that's the last 20 years of
Ah.
selling waste blocks. I don't know, maybe more,
Yeah.
but more than that. 55, I don't know.
Right, before.
But there is guardrail for part of it when the road is not so close. And then as the road gets closer and closer to the top of the block wall, it switches to Jersey barriers. And I think back to what I'm feeling about you can't drive the post, that's why I think it changes. And I also feel like because the blocks at the bottom, they're not translating horizontally, they're tipping.
Right.
So I don't think a 4-foot deep block would tip like that. I think that's why I think they're 2-foot blocks. So it's obviously not a very stable design. Well, it probably wasn't designed at all, it was probably just installed.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the answer is. Concrete retaining wall or something, I suppose would be the long-term solution.
I'm not sure why the Jersey barriers got put in there, because it didn't used to be there a few years ago. But something,
Well, didn't somebody
he
fall
mentioned
in?
somebody fell in. That's
Somebody
why.
was walking back up that road after some kind of an event, and they
Come back.
fell off the thing into the,
Yeah.
got hurt, but they didn't die.
Yeah.
But they got injured, so after that, I think the Jersey barriers went in.
Yeah. That's what it was. He said there was something down at the town. Park across the here. On the way home, we started, and we walked off the road.
So I don't know what,
So they're leaning forward like they're getting undermined?
I would say they look like.
yeah,
Scale
I think
underneath.
that could be part of it.
So there's a gap between the top of those that are moving and the ones that are.
Yeah, it's kind of like this, it's out and down.
The first box is pretty low. Below street level might have a chance of getting the same or not. Good? I think we're good. Recording? Yeah. Okay. You didn't try to TV though? No, I'm good. Okay. Well, we just downstairs. All right, thanks, Brad. So yeah, I guess I'd encourage you guys to take a look at it. Discuss it at the next meeting. I'll talk to Lafayette, see if I can get him to come look at it, tell us what your thoughts on it. Maybe that's how we get the Jersey barriers. Call them Lafayette. Every day.
It couldn't hurt.
Yeah.
They're gonna say, well, it's just not a stable situation, so whatever we do is gonna be a little bit.
Yeah.
Marginal, but.
Yeah.
I think it's a good suggestion. Discuss.
Yeah.
Not really, not seeing it's kind of.
Yeah.
Even if you could see a picture, but I didn't take
Yeah.
any, and you evidently didn't.
I think one. But I think it's, like you said, it's worth being to see just how tight things are from the street, the road, and then these waste blocks coming through. Okay. That brings us to the Corbett Beaver control. So what happened here is we had Skip Lyle come out after the guys had taken the dam out. Just on TV. And he installed his baffle. What you can see the pipe up to where the partial dam is. So, kind of like we've seen in the pictures of his brochures. And that's it, close up. It's got a solid Vanatech plywood top on it. And then it's vinyl with some kind of coated wire fencing around it. So he had asked us to stone the back side of the dam. So this portion in here, he said, when we get runoff going over the dam, it's just going to eat away at that. And having that fortified with like 7-inch valves going off from that side would help it. So Russ had the guys bring a load over. We placed it on the back of it. He had set it at a height that he was looking to have it come up another foot or two. And when you looked at it, when I looked at it, I was like, yeah, I don't want to go that much higher. I think where it's at now is probably about as far as we want to go, or we're going to risk having this dam up so high that there's water going to be lapping at the road. As it stands now, it's, I didn't take measurements, but it's at least 5 to 10 feet away, all the way down through there, I would say. You come up another foot or two, then it's going to be right up within a few feet, a couple of feet of the road. So my sense is we're good the way it is. Skip mentioned we should bring another load of stone in and really fortify the backside of it. Because if you get heavy runoff in the spring, it'll still chip right away.
No, it already happened. It already happened.
Did Russ get this second
That
load?
thing, that wooden thing is high and dry by about this much now. The wooden top on that cage is this high above the water. Because that runoff we had, I don't know,
Flush.
3, 4 days, 5 days ago, we had quite
Yeah.
a lot of rain.
Yeah.
And it took out part of that dam, lowered the level, and now the Beaver baffle lid
Yeah.
is up about over, probably more than a foot above the surface of the pond.
And it's probably because they moved it out of there and they're not trying to maintain it.
They're not, there seems to be no.
I was gonna say, where does the water go? Doesn't go through that pipe.
Yeah.
No, it would if the water was high enough, but
Right.
it's not.
So it's just seeping through the dam.
That's not gonna.
Well, this was put in anticipation of the beavers coming back and building that dam back higher.
Right.
They haven't done so.
And that's obviously any type of flow, so I was just wondering where the water is supposed to go.
Over the dam,
Over the dam.
under the bridge, ideally.
Right, and any kind of high flow is going to go over.
Yes.
Looks like it's gonna go right there.
Well, this picture must have been taken when he was building it, because
It was
since
actually
then,
just-
that created a dam all the way across, and then rock armored the downstream side. And so the idea, I think, was that that would be establishing enough of a pool that the beavers would come back, and then they'd put their sticks in their mud and build that dam higher, but it would be limited by this beaver battle. They haven't come back. They're working below the bridge. Over there, they've got a small dam below the bridge, which is backing up under the bridge, the pool, but they don't seem to be doing anything here yet.
This class, that's typical. What we used to do.
I'm sorry?
This class, that's what the guy was talking about. It's typical, they'll build a smaller dam down below the main one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's
Huh.
pretty common if they do that. Not another big one, but just a smaller one to hold some of that water up against the other dam. Because I guess they are relatively porous and somehow the water seeps through it. Amazingly, the fish and wildlife guy, who was the fish guy, somehow rookies and fish can get right through the beaver dams. God, man, I didn't think they did that, but he claims that he can go right through the dams. There's always water seeping through and there's a path for them to get up through.
You should find that out every day.
That's what he claimed. And he was showing us, he electrified the water and I saw a brook trout coming out of places and it was like, no kidding. Yeah. So, unbelievable. So anyway, the one thing that we had brought up last time is kind of a concern. He gave us a price of $6,700 all in. And we had to bring 2 loads. Well, we brought a load and he recommended we bring another load. I asked Russ what the going price that he paid for it was, and it was like $16 a yard, and he had a 50-60-yard truck. So I did the math on that, came out to, okay, so we get about $500 in materials, just raw price materials, counting around labor and stuff. And so I got into a conversation with him about that, and he realized said, all right, I'll take my reports up.
So the price was what,
67. So I just need to formalize that with him before he submits his invoice.
But it's still high, right?
I haven't been to see it since Mike looked at it, and
Did
it
he
sounds
go-
like it has come down some.
No, but
What's
his-
on the price or
No, his-
water?
Contraption.
Yeah,
It's still high relative to where he wants it. He wants that plywood on the top under a good foot or two of water.
Right, so he wants the water level to come up. We
Yes.
want him to move the damn thing down so that the water level submerges it. Is it?
Where it's at right now probably isn't bad.
Okay.
The dam we're built up and at where I expect beavers will put it at. If we build it up too high and beavers build on top of that, then I think we're gonna be looking at water up over the road again. So as Skip mentioned to me, this is a give and take thing with beavers. It's not a, I'm all done, see you later in 30 years, we'll do it again. It's, he has to come back and occasionally check on and see what's going on. That was kind of new news to me. I thought he was gonna be
Yeah,
as and on, but apparently, and I heard it from this guy, Tyler Brown, that Tyler's got like 50 or 60 of these in the state that he is constantly monitoring. And it's just, that's how it is.
but the elevation of his contraption is good where it is now. To start with.
That's my sense. We get the second load of stone in there and build that to the level that it was at, maybe a little bit higher. And then let the beavers do what they will to, and my guess is it's getting late in the season. He had mentioned that when you get too late in the season, the beavers realize they're not enough time to get this squared away, so they go elsewhere. Yes, it's going to be back soon. This winter, next year. So we have some time to play in that respect, although we wouldn't want the spring floods to flush that out. So getting that next load of stone in there to kind of hold that place.
so that's something for us then.
And he knows that time.
But they're gonna put another
load
load of stone in there. I mean, I've seen the photos, but I haven't been out there, but don't you think larger stone or blasted material or something? I mean,
He said larger stone would be better than 5-7 inch stone. Yep.
that just, stuff just tends to roll.
I don't really know that stone fell, that's
5-7 inch stuff.
a lot bigger stuff.
I got a sense from Skip it was big stuff that needs to.
For even blasted material that they.
That'll be down in the first big event.
Oh, that's
That's
it.
what that's what size we use.
Yeah, after seeing the great broke out in Plainfield, I understand what you're talking about. I don't know if you've been to that site before, but wow. The dam, not the dam, but the stream that fed the whiskey that destroyed Perry. This thing feeds into it. Unbelievable. Never seen anything like that in Vermont before.
Really?
Yeah, it's, if you're ever in that area, you want to go take a trip, go into downtown Plainfield, pass Positive Pie, hang a left and go up that road along the Great Pond, along the Great Brook. I'm glad that Underhill doesn't have a great brook like that.
Did it damage things in Plainfield?
Yeah. Amazing stuff when you get fire water going.
Yeah.
So I'll touch base with Russ. I was hoping to catch him tonight. Get him on board with getting that next load in, so. Overhill, Underhill Station Culverts. Just came from there and took pictures of the finished product as well as I took pictures of it before the concrete flew. And so pictures before, rebar in the bottom. One of the things that Don told us about this, is good to have salt inside, you can see it. And I don't remember if this is the poker one or the Underhill Station one. I got one of each. Because of the way the pipes have kind of done this on the bottoms and the tops have done all of this, when we said 4-6 inches, his question was where?
Oh, yeah.
So he set this rebar up with kind of a grade following the pipe. And if you look at the finished product, you'll go, that's a lot more than 6 inches. And it's because of this crowning effect. He would have had the rebar sitting on the very bottom if he'd gone all the way up through and left it at 6 inches at the ends. So now we have them both perched quite a bit more than the Fish and Wildlife guys would be happy to see. I would guess from here to here where the bottom culvert was is probably 10 inches, maybe a foot. And it was already perched a little bit, but that added a significant amount to it. And listening to the brook trout guy, he's like, yeah, 2 feet is too much. So we're probably at a point here when I talked to Bernie Bianca and had him come look at it, he'll go, yeah, that's a little.
Well, I asked him, she doesn't even mention it.
Yeah.
It'll fill in.
Well, so that would be the question I have for him, is should we fill this in with some slab rock so that it brings
There's
it
a
up
little
close?
pool right below there.
Because what the guy said from Fish and Wildlife is most of these culverts get put in correctly. And then what happens is you erode away right where it's coming out through a few big events. And now you get this perch effect that drops.
Yeah.
And that impedes the fish's ability to get upstream.
Doesn't erode away if you put in some fill that you should.
Depends how big the stone is, right, Clark? We'd have to put in some big slabs.
Who knows, those culverts are pretty old, so who knows what they did back then.
I mean, this is a lot of bedrock in there. They had to pick and find a place in between Poker and Underhill Station. They found a hole that they could dig in here, and there's another one on the upstream side from Poker
For
Hill.
some pumping, you mean?
There was something, yeah. But a lot of this is bedrock down here. It's pretty solid material. Let's see, but I did take a picture of the other side. I went over and looked at the other side. The other side
Is
actually.
this the,
No, that's that.
no, that's after, okay.
I mean, he did a nice job. I mean, he almost did too nice a job.
It's
When I
really
was
smooth.
there, when he was finishing up on Underhill Station, he was in there troweling it, kind of like, plenty good enough. This does not need to be a smooth house foundation, concrete garage floor. But it's just the way he does concrete. Right?
Well, the other thing is that the fact that it's really smooth like that means the friction is less, so it sort of makes up for some fact that we've lost area.
Right. But the area loss isn't so much, I mean, you might say it's because of the cement he put in here, but where he's got it in the center, it's probably 4 to 6 inches. But because of this pipe pushing up,
Hump in the middle of the pipe, yeah.
we've lost by hand. These are not what they were. The recovery on these is not sufficient for these size pipes. So. But
Compared to the alternative,
he did a nice job. He thought he was going to use a little less than 30 yards. He said it came out to 33 yards, figuring that some of those holes, I mean, there were some holes in the football size. I'm sure concrete was going down, filling in spaces there. So I think our problem with the sinkholes is probably behind us. With the one exception being, I worry that on the Poker Hill one, that there was enough material pulled away in the last year or so. And we got plates over that, but there may be collapsing gravel and silt down in there that might become a problem down the road. So we'll have to watch for that.
probably won't know unless the plates were removed, you know.
Right. Yeah.
Was the plan to leave the plates there?
We never had a plan to take them out. If we need some plates in desperation, I guess we know where we've got 3 of them stored. There's not that much pavement over there because we had it down to bare gravel. So.
We're gonna pay that section.
Okay.
Is it?
Yeah. So it's 4 inches of new pavement on it.
Yeah, guess we'll leave them.
That's my thought. But he's done, he submitted his invoice for the $71,000 bid was for. We got lucky because it was never an opportunity all summer long for him to get in there. And we got that window and it worked out like, that's all we had. If we hadn't been able to do it that week, we'd be looking at next year. So he started and finished on Wednesday. Well, pouring on Wednesday. He did prep work on Friday, Monday, Tuesday. And then Wednesday was pour day. He did both on Wednesday. And then he had two guys that kept each other awake all night long, make sure the sumps were running until Friday evening, I think is when it pulled. So they had 2 days to set up.
It seems like you sent through a concrete test that was a little over 3,000 pounds at 7 days, wasn't it?
He said it was 4,000 pound material that they were pouring. I didn't know how to interpret
Yeah, that's
that.
correct, but
I didn't
We don't see that.
that.
oh yeah, there it is, 3080.
Okay. So does it actually get stronger over time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Theoretically,
if we went
for a
back,
month.
Really, I'm looking for like 2/3
when you test
at 7 days.
at the port. Okay. So this will be somewhere
There's
4,000
3/4
by the
of
time
it,
it sets up completely. Okay. And then all the data you see here looks like what we want to see.
Yep.
Yep, these guys are good to work with.
We'll get the test for the other 3 cylinders in 28 days or 21 days after this.
So, okay, they have retains that they
We'll get the rest of the info
got it.
in 28 days after the pour.
Okay,
That's
so sometime in another 3 weeks or so, we'll see.
I think there's some form that either he or we have to send into, what's her name there at the core too, to say that we're finished.
I got that on my list of to-dos. There's a finalization piece of the Army Corps permit that I've got.
It's simple enough, I think, but
Yeah.
it's just something that has to be done.
Yeah, I did that for the Corbett one. It was pretty straightforward.
Yeah, good.
So I'll get that over to Angela when
Yeah, that's
I get some time tomorrow or next day. So yeah, let's hope that we haven't narrowed down the holes too much. We do have the extra 3-foot pipes in there, so I think originally we were thinking that was about a even swap. The 3-foot pipe bought us back as much as we were putting in, but through the nature of these pipes, we probably lost 10% or something like that, maybe not quite 5%.
Hopefully we gain 25 years.
Yeah. So at some point, Mike, you and I might want to go in there and do take a measure on these and see what we actually do have for remaining area on these 2 pipes. Just for,
We can, but what's the point? It is what it is.
it is, I'd like to update it for Brad to put into the state culvert inventory, and then that'll get roped into the town resilience planning tool, so that when we run that model, it'll give us a feel for
Yeah. That's
how
what
close, or is that going to be a potential blowout site?
Okay.
So we already know.
Do that
So,
next time we go out to check Culvert.
yeah, we got to be up by Metcalf and a couple others up that way that we can get to, so. Large culverts. I don't think I sent you guys this file, but Mike had it. Basically, we took the listing of 900 some odd culverts that Brad sent over to me, and I scrolled through it all and picked out all the 4-foot and larger ones. And there were some that didn't have any indication of whether it was inches or feet, so I didn't know what they were, so I put them in there. Turns out most of the ones that said 8 or 6 meant inches for driveway culverts. So we had a few that we went and looked at that were pretty horrible, but they're only 6 to 8 inch pipes, so they're just not on the radar screen. What this committee has to worry about, we'll pass the word on for us when I get this thing finished off. If you driveway culverts need replacing. But there's probably, if you're on this page, close to 50, 60 some odd pipes that were in the large category. And we've gone through probably, I don't know, 35, 40 of those, looking at them. We've got another 15, 20 left to go. The good news is a lot of them are in real good shape. The not so good news is there's some really big ones out there and they're starting to show signs of we'll want to have them on our radar screen. Nothing as imminent as Culver and North Underhill Station, but
Headed to the same place.
yeah, where the gallery is pretty much totally worn off the bottom and they aren't pitted and perforated yet, but they'll get there. The biggest one I think was the one up on Upper English Settlement that was 18 feet or so. It's the one that came out of Stevensville when it got flushed and the town repurposed it and put it up on English Settlement. So someday that one will need a repair and extended. Because I can't remember.
But the kind of repair that we just did at Poker would be appropriate for those as well.
Yeah, and I put that into the spreadsheet for the 10-year outlook when we get into it. You can see I got a couple of rough estimate placeholders in there. We'll tune that up a little bit later. There was one that was rather concerning up on Stevensville, past the Maple Leaf place, go up towards Class 4 Road. And I think there's one driveway past it. There's an old stone culvert. And we looked inside it and he was on one side, I was on the other side. And there was no daylight to be had. So I don't know how the water's getting through it. And it looks like it ought to be a pretty decent watershed up above it. But there's this really old stone culvert that looks like it's pretty close to plugged. That or is a big sagging, and that's why we can't see daylight.
Yeah, who knows, but it's not in good shape.
It's in rough shape and it has a really deep spill on the outlet side. Probably 20 feet down anyway to where the stream takes off from where
Could be that much.
15, 20 feet anyway. The upstream side was a little better, but it's in a gully that's, if it washes, then the hiking trails will be unavailable to everyone. There's one house at the very end. It's a seasonal camp. And then there's the one that we saw the drivers. So there's actually two places beyond it.
Did you say Class 4?
It's Class 4 and it feeds services pretty much the state park, not so much town residents.
Well, not the park, but the state forest land, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I guess that's state forest, not state park.
Stevensville Road, that would be the trail to Taylor Lodge. Goes
Yeah,
off from
they're
there.
called watch trails.
And I think the trail back down off the mountain, is it called the Frost Trail, maybe?
Yep.
Comes back
Yep.
into there.
Looks back, yeah.
So, you know, some pretty well-used hiking trails and a parking lot.
Yep.
So maybe you should let the state know if they're interested. But I mean, if you start replacing a town or a culvert, you're gonna,
Oh, I know. Yeah, it's Class 4 road, so this is not necessarily an obligation on the town's part. So our sense was before we as a town do anything, it's notify the state, are you aware that there's this issue? And then let them and whomever the right folks, select board is to decide on how that's going to happen. My sense is the state will look to the town because they give us X dollars per year for state highway funding and say, that's on you.
I'm on down highway, I'm on the Class 4 town highways, they don't.
True, the funding's only on Class 2, 3, and 1, but we don't have one. So- Yeah, good point.
Is there still a Class 4 road committee or something?
So maybe that's the thought too.
Yeah, it'd be good to let them know.
Yes. We can let Rick Hay know that he's got a culvert. that's-
Well, and it, that's
Yep.
$200,000 if they want to start.
I don't know how, any feel for how big that would have to be, Mike? It's certainly not a large culvert, it's probably
It's
2 feet
probably
wide by,
4 by 3 or something.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell because everything's all jumbled
Right.
and fumbled in, but I don't know. I would think that would have to be a pretty big pipe. 6 feet maybe, I don't know. That's,
Mhm.
you know, I shouldn't even guess.
yeah. Here, I have no idea what the watershed up above that is.
But it's not gonna be a town
By
crew
the time you
throw it in
engineer
in
it,
2 days.
No, by the time you engineer it and
Yeah.
purchase pipe and then install it, yeah, you're probably looking at 6 figures. Pretty close to it anyway.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, given what we have seen.
It cost you 71,000 just to fix 2 culverts, I mean.
Yep. Yeah, that was a lot of concrete. That was 33 yards of concrete. But yes, materials are getting cheaper.
I guess that's relative, we don't consider that a lot of concrete.
But to build a box culvert, you're right, that's probably a lot of concrete.
But anyways,
So yeah, that was probably the one big eye opener. There was another one on Range Road that we found that appears to be plugged, damaged. It really wasn't on our radar screen.
That was the one that was right next to another one.
It's one that was right next to the septic field that looked relatively new, next to one of the houses on the lower side of Range Road. At 6 Range Road, there was
Oh, the one down near the village. Brad knows all about that, by the way.
he does.
He kind of knows the history of it, and when you get a minute, when you see Brad, ask him to tell you what he knows about that culvert.
It's like 180 feet long, goes behind the guy's house and out in his backyard and ties into the next stream over.
He said there was something about the US government and the range that was put in some arrangement because of the range being up that road. Some land owned by the government, maybe, I don't know, I didn't think to look at it on, on my computer parcel viewer, you can look and see who owns what, shows you the property lines, but I didn't do that, so I don't know what he's talking about exactly, but apparently there's some government land involved there, and the government put that pipe way out through there.
I guess the only other thing I note was, at first we thought we'd just look at the ones that were fairly poor, but then when we saw that the ones we just repaired were listed as they were good, very good, something like that. And again, we don't know the dates when these things were inspected, so it might have been 2 years ago, might have been 10 years ago, I don't know when they were last inspected. We decided to just go through all the big ones, just as a matter of course. Like I said, a lot of them are in great shape. But there are some that sort of are going to need attention, or 2 that I picked out and added onto the 10-year outlook just because they're large pipes and they're going to need the treatment that we just did to the Poker and US ones. Okay, that gets us to the 10-year outlook.
This guy that Dan at Anchor Foundation, I mean, he was.
I think he was pretty
Did
good.
he do another one?
Yeah, I think so. He's struggling like every contractor with getting reliable employees. I think this was his first culvert repair, I would guess. And I think in our documentation, I would do things a little bit differently to help him not necessarily make a flat smooth tabletop inside the culverts, because that's.
But he didn't lose his shirt at 71,000 and.
No, I don't.
So we got a decent product and.
I think we got a decent product, and I think he found the job to go, once we had good weather, fairly smoothly. We didn't have any hiccups from what I could tell, watching it over the days he was there. He did say that all the rebar that he pushed through, he never had anything solid. He said there was no ledge or bedrock that he got into with any of those 1.5 foot. Yeah, I mean, he drilled them and said it was mostly gravel. Whatnot down below is what he thought anyway. So I think it's still a good idea to kind of like that, but he didn't get into any stone, so that didn't slow him down for sure. In fact, I might have sped him up a bit because it went so well. And there are some places where he just couldn't bother drilling because there was no metal to drill through. So he hopped over and moved other places to do that. And he put 3 courses down, if you notice in the picture, down the length of the pits. One around the middle and then one on each side. So yeah, I think he would do more. I mentioned to him, because I think I saw him right after Mike and I had inspected the first round of them over on our side of town. He certainly didn't say no.
Just made me think of it when you didn't put 2 more on the list, so.
Yep.
I was hoping that you did all right with them.
The question is, how much longer will he be in business doing concrete?
How old a guy is he?
Mid-50s, maybe.
Not bad.
Yeah. I don't think he's 60. I know he's not 40. He's definitely 50 something for sure. Maybe he's approaching 60. But it's a small crew. It's him and his cousin, I guess. And they hire a handful of others, and on a
Hope
good
they
day, they
show
get
up.
3 or 4 of them to show up, and other days they don't. So I can put this on the screen, or if you guys want to go off hard copies, we can do that too. There's an extra hard copy right there. Print one. I made some changes, obviously. I tried to do the best I could to smooth out the spending across the 10-year frame. You'll notice that 2025 is a little low, but I don't have the new road pipe price in there. I still want to go back and revisit that. I know we got a quote from Ireland for a big box culvert. But I'd like to have, I guess, a little more engineering looking at it before we go through those numbers in there. The difficult part is we haven't got much time between budget season looking for a number and getting some more information if we want for FY25. I had a meeting with Russ, Brad, Sherry, Jen, Monday, 2 weeks ago. And a couple weeks ago on Monday, to review the equipment discussion that we got into. And then I got from the staff was, we should support.
So in other words, they like the concept Russ had presented.
Yeah. But their take was, let's give us the opportunity to keep improving things at the town garage, and if that's part of it, then let's keep going. I'm not sure I agree, but the town staff seems to be behind it. So my sense is we'll put this in front of the select board and they get to go, yay, ask some questions or no. So what I'll plan to do is I might actually add another column here, which is our previous 10-year outlook FY24 next to the FY25 one, so they can see how much has changed. And if they want to ask questions about that, they can go through it. I'm not asking some inflation.
The big picture, what he was talking about was basically having an extra truck.
He wants to replace Nate's truck with a lease truck from a used purchase, or used lease. And then maybe at the end of that 3-year lease, we buy it, or if we don't like the way it's paid over 3 years, we walk away from it. Get another.
The long term, that's what he's, the big picture of his proposal was get a late model used truck that's available for reserve.
To get Nate's truck replaced.
Well, Nick's truck
Right,
is
but that-
used, though. It's not a
Yes,
reserve.
it's not a reserve. The 08's a reserve.
It ended up being one of the trucks that comes off service. I think it would go with
Yeah.
reserve.
I was hoping you'd be here tonight to confirm these are correct, or if I gotta tweak these numbers some, but.
I don't think he was proposing getting an extra truck over what we have now.
So the lease one would be the one that's on the road, but then there would be another one that's, another one.
Ultimately, he wants to get to all hands.
And at least one is going to replace the one single axle that's not the reserve.
For 2015, Nate's truck.
Right, sounds like it's really rough shape, or maybe not.
I didn't want to get into the personalities and issues that may be associated with driving Nate's truck. It was custom to Nate, and each of these trucks has been kind of custom to each of the guys. They get their say on what that truck is configured like. All the new ones are automatics. Nate's a stick. All the new ones are tandems with the side dispense in front of the rear tires. This is a lift the body and dump out the back. So I get it. I had our internet line taken down 3 times in the course of 10 years because of nobody. So I understand what you're talking about. It says, yeah, it's old architecture. The new way is these side dispense systems. So question is, how quick do you get to solving those issues that exist with the equipment? I'd solve a lot of these issues that we got with roads and bridges and stuff, but you can only go so fast, so. I don't disagree with necessarily what he's doing, it's just the rate and pace is what I'm, so. But the sense I get from the staff when we met with Russ was, no, let's proceed, so I'll get with Russ sometime later on this week and get his further input on the equipment side of this. For now, hopefully I've got it pretty close to where he was looking to take us. And leasing is leasing, not capital, so, you know, I think it should be part of this. It's leasing, so technically it's not capital, it's bought. If you decide to use a 3-year lease to buy it, then that's the story, but right now he's not proposing.
So the lease payment comes out of operational budget.
It's not capital.
So it was, I don't know what his title is, but
Road supervisor.
road supervisor, does he have the discretion of where to spend that operational budget?
Absolutely. Yeah. You got to take it to the select board, get their approval for big ticket things like that. Yeah. And he's.
Can ask for more.
He's managing $1 million budget,
I
so.
can manage it however he sees fit, I think.
Yeah.
But don't ask for 10% increase next year to pay the lease payment.
Right. Okay, so I'll skip over equipment.
One thing on equipment, I noticed on the last page of this, which was something about selectmen's suggestions or something.
Oh,
That's the recommendations.
That's not updated.
That's pretty old then,
Yeah.
okay. But there was something in here about,
Once we're all done with this, then I will write up the changes and select board recommendation stuff. After we've got this set and we decide on our next meeting, yep, this is where we want to go, then I'll update those last pages. Okay.
I just was
My
looking at
fault.
this pushing the excavator to fiscal year 2028, if Nate concurs. Now, there's some issue with the excavator because it got damaged. But I mean, I still don't really understand how badly it's damaged. Can it be used? Is it just dented pretty badly, or is it not functional, or?
No, it's just cosmetic.
Yeah, it's a side
It
panel.
sounded like it might be. So,
They've got,
Operationally, it's not any different.
right, just doesn't look as pretty. And as far as I know, they're cleared, the money's already been taken from the bank. I did confirm that with Sherry and Jen. They already have dollars in hand and are ready to go buy whatever Russ ends up coming to a decision on. Whether it's Case or Hyundai or Sandy. One of those three is where I think Russ and Wayne are gonna decide that this is where they want to be. Whatever that works out to, they'll incorporate that into that loan structure. Infrastructure. So I added a column, hopefully I added a column, I embellished a column. Used to be just new road out there. I put a question mark next to it because I haven't got to a point where I want to stick numbers in there yet. And then I put page 29, Upper English 117, as repairs, like what we did up on Underhill Station. And then Upper English 145. To get my estimate, I just kind of, okay, it's $70,000 to do 260-foot 7x12, so these pipes are smaller and a little bit shorter. What's that going to work out to for the two of them? You know, there might be a little bit more money because they're two different locations. One's on Upper English, the other one's over on Page. So they're not quite side by side. So I threw a little extra for that. I came out of roughly 30K.
Was that your 80 you're talking about?
The 80 is the one for the Upper English 145. That was the big one. 145 is the
And then 30 is for Page?
Page and the smaller one on Upper English 117. So Page was 29 is currently a 78 by 60. And Upper English is 145 is excuse me, 117 is a 60 by 84.
And what's Upper English?
And the
Or the 145, sorry.
The upper English one's only 30 feet long, and the Page one is also 30 feet long. So half the length of the ones we just did, and smaller than the ones we just did. So
Yeah.
30,000 might actually be on the pricier side.
Seems reasonable.
Knowing where inflation's going in construction costs, I figured best to have it a little on that.
So how big is the upper English 145?
The upper English 145 is the monster that we looked at. That's the 120 by 200. Those being inches.
Did it have a length on
50.
it? So that's kind of in the same range as the ones we just fixed.
Yeah, yeah. And that was the one that was kind of tipped a little bit.
Yeah.
So if you remember, the lower section was scoured a little harder than maybe the upper part.
Mhm.
So maybe we don't need to do that entire width. It might make sense while we're in there just to make sure the whole lot was covered.
I think it would, but.
I use that kind of number when I estimated the 80. Did I peg inflation properly? I guess we need another year or two more prices are going for the concrete. So those are in there. Mike and I aren't done yet. And I think those are the three that we decided that need to be on the radar. I did not put the Stevensville one on here because as we talked about, we need to talk to the state.
Right, that's really.
And that's for road yet, so that's not in there. But I know we got a few more big ones in here that we haven't looked at, and if we find one of those that looks in tough shape, then I'll add that into this column as well. Anything else on this page? That was really the only changes there. Everything else stayed the same with Bridge 7 and Mountain Road. Then on to paving. So based on our last meeting, when Russ brought up the point that he really wasn't ready to have us pave next summer on Pleasant Valley, because there's still work to be done on the shoulders. We're going to switch that to Irish Settlement and then follow up the next year with Pleasant Valley 3. Hopefully we get a grant by that point in time, but I'm not counting on it. As you can see, I don't show the grant against that section of Pleasant Valley 3. I went through and moved one road because I thought I was going to gain some ground. I had Mountain Road tied with Pleasant Valley 1, 2, and 5. And as you can see, that's at 350. So I was like, wow, if I take Mountain Road off of that, then maybe I can bring that down a little bit. When I went back and started to do math, I realized I didn't have Mountain Road in the math to begin with. I had it on the column, but when I ran the numbers for what it was, I had omitted it. So it was there in standing only, but not in reality. So when I ended up moving it, I put it over along with the River Road work, figuring that River Road, Mountain Road are at our park. So when we were doing the River Road 2-mile stretch, since that's going to be spread out over 2 years, let's tuck in 4 tenths of a mile Mountain Road is, and add that in there. So those went from 265, I think, gone up to 265, 275, and moved up to 311. Otherwise, I think pretty much everything else stayed about the same. Where the 200K for paving grant should go, I've got that into 2029, I think it is.
Which one?
The paving grant.
Yeah.
It's probably going to be sooner than that. My take is whenever we get that, that's what I was advised to do by Jim Coda over at the District 5 office, was keep applying every year. No, probably next year won't work for you, but we'd like to see people applying, and that way it shows the politicians there's demand and need, so maybe they'll give them some more money for it. So we'll keep doing that. If we get lucky and we get something sooner than then we'll have a year where we know that the price will be a little bit less.
Where am I finding that grant?
It's at the very bottom under PE 125.
Oh, yeah, okay, 200.
Yeah. And maybe by then it'll be a bigger number, but for now, I got it at 200. And just FYI, the equations that I'm using for this is, you see I've added the line up top for tonnage, square yards, all these are 2-inch milling bills. And because before we were doing 2 1/4 and no milling, by the time you pay for the extra asphalt plus the shoulder gravel, it works out to be cheaper to 2-inch milling bill. Not a lot, but I thought it would be doing this, but the cost for the milling is really not huge.
that bad, yeah.
So it kind of offsets the added expenses of putting down an 1/4 inch and shoulder gravel and so forth. And I do have on the paving costs, there's a column that shows you what the prices that I adjusted for as inflation turns out to be. Yeah, and then I've got the same thing for the milling price. And I tack on an extra 10% on not the milling, but on the asphalt piece of it. So when I get the final tonnage by price, I get a number and I add 10%. Just as if we're budgetary on this, don't want to be short. So it smooths it out for the most part to a level in the 550, 600 range. Higher than where we've been, but this year, 2024, fiscal year 2024 was 586 by design. Well, what I had recommended, because I had suggested we not pay $350 for the paving for the second year piece of it. I said we should eat some of that previous year, but Jen opted to say, no, let's let previous year be the level that it was planned for, and we'll take fiscal year 24 and eat it then. So that's what we did. Which is why that number is a significant jump over FY 23.
Almost everything from 2025 down through to 2031 is somewhat higher. Your actual is somewhat higher than your target.
Yep.
Not awful.
No.
Well, 2026 isn't, that's a pretty big jump.
Yeah, it's up 100K. That's the biggest year for equipment, right? 231 and it comes down next year.
See, if we push that excavator out to 2028, that would solve that.
Yeah.
But
That was a conversation I got into, but it was kind of like.
maybe the equipment and the things we shouldn't get too involved in.
Kind of, but not really looking for any equipment too much.
No, they sure aren't.
In terms of aggregating it, putting it together so that they can see the big picture of here's what the capital spending looks like, I think it's still a valuable thing for us to do that, but we'll take Russ's inputs for what they are and let them make the decision. And that's always been the case. We just roll this up to them. This is our recommendation, and the select board says yay or nay. And the one that obviously counts the most right now is the next fiscal year coming, and I'm sure Jen will be looking for inputs come November or so. So my sense is that if you guys are all good with this, then I'll button it up and get Russ's inputs and send something forward to Jen. If you think we need to work this a little more, then do that. I would like to get the new road one into this as well, if possible. And if there's something on the Stevensville thing, although I think we're still pretty early to come up with anything to recommend for what to do there. So,
It occurs to me that maybe that box culvert that was built on the very bottom of Dean Road.
Yep.
Some years ago.
That was about 210K.
Yeah.
That
And
was my first year.
slope-wise, scale-wise, I'm thinking that may be about the same size as what you'd be looking at.
For your road.
And,
So that was 6 years ago and 210K.
yeah. So.
So then you get into the question of, when I was in this class, I asked, so when I go to model this resilience planning tool, do I use 10-year, 25-year, 50-year, 100-year? What should we be using? And what I was told was that the 100-year is a 1%, 50 years, 2%, 10-year is 10% chance of events happening.
in any given year.
Yeah. So when you think about a 1 or 2% chance, do you model your town priorities on something that's a 1 or 2% chance, or do you model it on something that's more like a 10 or
Depends on
25
the
year?
road. You know, the
Right.
interstate, you surely do it for a 100-year storm.
Yep.
For a little town road that's a gravel road, you probably do it for a 10-year storm. It's looking more like for paved town roads, maybe 10's not quite enough. Maybe it should be a 25-year storm, given the way these storms are, but it depends on the use.
And it probably also depends on if it's a connected road on both sides and you lose a pipe in between, people have access around.
Mm-hmm.
Something like Corbett or Stevensville where they're dead-ended. You really don't want to lose that because now you get people hanging out the drive.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to have to put some of that spin on it as we go through the modeling side of it as well. But yeah, I didn't get you should use 25 years or 50. No one would say one way or the other.
No, that's right.
The best way, because I get the sense, like we were just saying, that depending on the situation, this might be a better way to model the.
How many culverts are there out there like going on New Road that should be replaced and should be replaced with a box culvert or a structural plate arch or something like that that's always going to be over $100,000?
Yeah.
And maybe
I don't know. I mean, we just picked 50-ish, 50, 60 of the big ones because having replaced those, we know that they've got to be like full stream width or more. So, and they did say full stream width is what the state of Vermont uses. Other places use 1.2, but I guess we use 1 extreme width. That's it.
Is minimum.
Right. Yeah. So if the pipe's already bankable width, then we could stay with that size pipe. But still, the ones we're looking at now, those are the big ones, we'll dial them in. And then somewhere down the road, I guess we get from Brad all the really poor ones that are smaller and go look at are there any really long ones there or ones that we know the models that really should be a bigger pipe and then add that on to the list. So we've got to do that resilience planning tool thing first, I think, to get the sense of where are the most vulnerable spots and ones that have the biggest impact to detours and that sort of thing.
But I guess I'm thinking about the 24 and the 36-inch pipes that are going to get replaced with a 6 or an 8 foot.
And that tool will tell you, because it takes all the culvert inventory information. So as long as that's correct, it then adds the watershed information that feeds through that. And then takes into account, okay, what kind of road is this and what's the detour going to be for how many people? And it gives you a priority number on it.
And where do you put in the dollars? That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, the dollars goes into.
Replacing the one on New Road is fine if it's one, but when it's a dozen,
Right.
something's got to give. Either the tax rate's going up or roads aren't getting paved
Or do you say New Road flushes out and we have some number of spare pipes in inventory so that when it flushes out, the crew gets out there with gravel, stone, and pipes and rebuild it on to the next 10, 20, 30 years, right? Because we can't do it all in one shot. You can't afford it.
I know that can't be the official policy, but practically.
Yeah.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, we saw what happened to the state over in Richmond on the interstate where they had that culvert that was down, 60 feet beneath the highway and cost them how many million?
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
$25 million.
Serious.
They had to shut the highway down and dig the thing down. It was a hello surprise, and cha-ching, it was an enormous millions of dollars.
That's all they have, so it's the other. The other one.
Oh, is that right? I didn't realize that.
It's the other way.
So it's half done, the other half is waiting to get done. So that's why it's like a $25 million project, because we did one side, now they're going to do this.
Is there a break in between such that one empties and then goes into the next one, or it's one continuous culvert? And they just fixed part of it, huh?
Wow. Maybe that explains, that makes me feel better about the $25 million fee. I just thought that was a tremendous amount of money for the one stretch that they did.
Well, maybe the 25 million is just what they spent to do that part.
Okay, I hope-
Yeah,
You think that was just for that one lane, for that one southbound?
most likely, yeah. Oh,
I mean, there's two in Georgia.
I'll
At least 2 years ago, right?
I'll ask at the PAC meeting. See if they can tell me.
Sometimes I wonder how this country managed to build all these roads and bridges and things that we have, given that we can't even afford to maintain them now.
I think we're dealing with something that has a lot to do with, we did a bunch of really good work back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And now all that stuff's 70, 80, 90 years old, and things don't work like they did back then when you had the CCCs and a bunch of workers looking, come home from the war and get to work building stuff. It's a different world now.
But now spending 30 or 40% on non-construction costs.
I think we're all set, unless someone had something else to do on that.
I think we're good.
Not that we don't need to eat too, but
Yes.